Hello everyone. In this video, I will discuss the properties of real numbers. Properties of real numbers is used to manipulate any algebraic expressions. It allows us to simplify expressions and rewrite equations so they are easier to solve. These are the properties of real numbers. For the first property is the closure property. The property says that real numbers are closed under addition, subtraction, and multiplication. That means if A and B are real numbers, then A plus B is a unique real number and A times B is a unique real numbers. For example, the given is 3 and 11 as your real numbers. Then, when you add 3 plus 11 is equals to 14. And when you multiply 3 times 11, it is equal to 33. Now, notice that both 14 and 33 are real numbers. So the closure property says that when you add something or when you add two real numbers, there is a unique value. For example, another example, when you add 5 plus 6, so when you add 5 plus 6, there is a unique value which is equal to 11. Likewise, when you multiply 10 times 5, then there is a unique value which is equal to 50. That is for the closure property. Now, for the second property, that is commutative property. So this is very common. Normally, we will always apply commutative property, especially later on, we will analyzing equations or we simplify equations, adding, subtraction, or quotient, or multiplication, so on and so forth. Now, what does commutative property says? So it tells us that two numbers can be added or multiplied in any order without affecting the result. Mathematically, so if you have A plus B, it is equal to B plus A. Or if you have A times B, then it is equal to B times A. So this first portion here is the commutative property of addition. And in this second expression is commutative property of multiplication. That when you add A plus B, so this B really moves, interchange its places. The B now would be the first, but the operations, the additions will remain. Likewise, in multiplication, A and B, so the B is interchanging, but the operations of multiplications are not moving. Only the expression, maybe it is a number or variable or an equation. So for example, so this is what I said a while ago. So the A really moves. Same with B. And for multiplication, A, and then B and B. Now, for example, 8 plus 5. So by commutative, it will become 5 plus 8. So the property says that when you add or two numbers can be added without affecting the result. So we try to check 8 plus 5, that is 13. If you add also 5 plus 8 is equal to 13. So there is no affecting or the result would not affect. So that is why this is a commutative property. So next, so only the 8 or the real numbers really moves. Likewise with the real numbers 5. So it is now moving from first, no? Okay, that is commutative property. Another example is a plus 5 or quantity of a plus 5 plus c. So is equal to c plus quantity of a plus b. So meaning this is your a. So as what the expression here? This represent as your a. So your a now would be moved to the other side, which is this one, a plus 5. And then the b here, which is representation of b, is now c. Okay, so the c would now be the first, but the addition will remain. That is commutative property of addition. Now, let's have problem number 3. So 6 times 5 is equals to 5 times 6. Now, this dot here between 6 and 5 represent or means times. So, 6 times 5, it is just equal to 5 times 6. Diba? Diba? Yung result ng 6 times 5 is 30. Then, 5 times 6 is 30. So, it would not affect the result. That is commutative property of multiplication. Okay? The 6 now would be moved here in this side. And then the 5 now would become the first. This 5 will be now the first value. Okay? So, for number 4 or problem number 4, the quantity of 2b times c is just equal to c times 2b. So, same with example number 3, but this time your a now would be quantity of 2b. So, this quantity of 2b now would be this move to this side. And then the c would now be the first. So that is commutative property of multiplication. So another example, number 5, 3 plus quantity of 2 minus m, it is equal to quantity of 2m or 2 minus m plus 3. So this 3 now represents your a and it moves to the other side. So this is your 3. Then this quantity 2 minus m would now be your b and it goes to the first term here. That is 2 or quantity of 2 minus m. And that is commutative property. So in other words, example 1, 2, and 5 are examples of commutative property of addition. Then examples 3 and 4 are commutative property of multiplication. Next, the third property is associative property. So when we say associative property, it tells that we group or we may group together the quantities as we please without affecting the results. So mathematically, A plus quantity of B plus C is equal to quantity of A plus B plus C. And A times, so there is a dot here missing. Quantity of B times C is equal to A or quantity of A dot B close times C. So notice here, the real numbers A, B, and C are not moving. Only the operations, I mean, the real numbers A, B, and C are not moving. At the same time, the operations, the addition, only the parentheses moves. Same with the associative property of multiplication. The ABC constants, or I mean ABC real numbers, are not moving, and the operation of multiplication also is not moving. Only the parentheses, or the grouping of the parentheses. So from the first one, B and C are grouped, but applying the associative, the A and B now would be grouped as one, then added by C. So when you add this one, A plus quantity of B plus C, it would not affect the result. So let's have an example. Okay, sample. 8 plus quantity of 7 plus 4. So unlike commutative, the number really moves. This time, this is associative. So 8, when you add 8 by 7 plus 4, that is 11. 11 plus 8, that is 19. Likewise, when you add 8 plus 7, that is 15. Plus 4, it is also equal to 19. So the result would not affect if we group together. So this one and this one. So the number are not moving, or the real numbers are not moving, but only the parentheses. So the first group here is 7 plus 4. This time, the 8 plus 7 is grouped together, but the result is not affecting, or the result is just the same. Another example, the quantity of m plus 2 plus 5. So by associative, this m, 2, and 5 remains, only the parentheses moves. So we group this one together. Okay, m plus 2, and then this time the 2 and 5 would group together. That is associative property. The number 3, 3 times the quantity of 5 times 2. So we group together, the result is 3 times 5 times 2. So without affecting the result, so let's try to check. 5 times 2, that is 10. Times 3, that is 30. How about this one? If we group 3 times 5, 3 times 5 is 15. So multiply by 2, still the answer is 30. So that is associative property. Now, for the fourth example, the quantity of n times 2 times 5 is equal to n times quantity of 2 times 5. So in example 3, that the 5 and 2 is grouped. So this time, the first number here, or variable, so n and 2, so are grouped together, and then you multiply by 5. By associative property, so these 2 and 5 are grouped together, and then n. Okay, so that is example number 4, associative property. Then lastly, example 5, the bracket here, quantity of 2 plus 3 plus 5 plus 8. So this is your A here, representation of A, plus B, and then plus C. So the 2 and 3 is really do not move, no? So 2 plus 3, this is your representation of A here. So your B here is 5. So you group 5 and 8, that is commutative property of addition. So let's try to check if the same value, it will not affect the result. So 2 plus 3, that is 5. Plus 5, 10. Plus 8, that is 18. How about this one? 2 plus 3 is equal to 5. What is the result of 5 plus 8? That is 13. 13 plus 5 is 18. So the result really or the result is just the same. If you group this one, you group this one, and then this time your 5 plus 8 is being grouped together. So that is associative property. The numbers or variable is not moving, only the parentheses. Unlike commutative, the real numbers really moves to the other side. Associative, the real numbers and variables are not moving. So that is the difference between associative and commutative. So example 1 and 2, 1, 2, and 5 are associative property of addition. Likewise, for example 3 and 4 are commutative property of multiplication. So for the fourth properties of real numbers, that is distributive property. So it says that a property indicating a special way in which multiplication is applied to addition of two or more numbers, in which each term is or each term inside a set of parentheses can be multiplied by a factor outside the parentheses. Mathematically, so if you have A here, quantity of B plus minus C, so by distributive, whatever be the operation or the variable here, if it is a number or expression, you distribute whatever equations outside the parentheses to the inside. And then it could be plus or minus. So A, B, plus minus A times C, that is AC. That is distributive property. For example, you have two quantity of x plus 4. So your two here outside the parentheses would be or will be multiplied to the inside parentheses. That is why 2 times x, that is 2x. 2 times 4 is equals to 8. So since this is addition, so this is plus. So 2 times 4 is 8. So that's why the final answer is 2x plus 8. Another example, negative 5 quantity of m minus 2. So by distributive property, negative 5 times m, that is negative 5 times m. Negative 5 times 2, that is negative 5 times 2. But the operation this time is subtraction. Okay? Now, simplifying further, negative 5 times m, that is negative 5m. Negative 5 times 2, that is negative 10. Then, minus. So, simplifying further by addition or operations of subtraction, then if it is subtraction, then it will become positive here, and this one would change to positive. So negative 5 plus 10. So this is negative 5 plus 10. Or we can do like this. So 10 minus 5m. That is just the same. Okay? Now, how about if it involves variable like 2x outside here is being distributed inside the parentheses. So 2x times x squared, then 2x times x. So this is applying the law of exponent, 2x times x squared. So 2, copy the 2 here, 2. Then x times x, that is x cubed. Okay, you cannot combine x by constant 2 ha. So dapat variable, then constant. Now x and x, so x cubed. Then plus 2x times x, that is 2x squared. That is for problem number 3 or example number 3 for distributive property. Now for number 4, so it is now it involves trinomial. negative 3, then you multiply to the inside 2, negative a, and 5. So negative 3 times 2, that is negative 6. Negative 3 times negative 1, that is positive 3a. And then negative 3 times 5, that is negative 15. So that is negative 15. Now with this, notice this is constant, it's negative 6. This is constant. You can combine. You cannot combine constant with variable 3a. Except there is an a here, so you can combine. But in this case, 3a is the final. So negative 6, only the number will be added. So negative 6 minus 15, and that is negative 21. So 3a, and the result of this is negative 21. That is for problem number, or sample problem number 4. This time, I will discuss the inverse property. So this is the fifth property. For the inverse property of addition, it states that any number or variable added to its opposite will be or will equal to 0. For example, 5 plus negative 5. By the way, the one that is means that opposite will be means that this is the additive inverse. I repeat, the one that you add is the additive inverse. And that additive inverse, when you add that to the number, would result to 0. For example, 5 plus negative 5. This negative 5 is the this is the additive inverse that makes the result equal to 0. Take note for that, ha? Always remember that this number here is the additive inverse from the word inverse property of addition. So negative 5 is the additive inverse. Next, negative 1/2. Of course, the number that makes the result 0 is 1/2. That is your additive inverse of negative 1/2. Meaning to say, if the number given is positive, the additive inverse is negative, just like this one, positive 5. So the additive inverse is negative 5. Well, sample number 2, negative, that is positive. So this 1/2 is your additive inverse, which result to 0. So this is common questions in the board exam. Mostly the problem maybe would ask, what is the additive inverse of 5? So additive inverse by inverse property, it is just its opposite. So if it is negative, then that is positive. The inverse property or the additive inverse. So this 1/2 is the additive inverse of this negative 1/2. Now, for the second property or under the inverse property is inverse property of multiplication. So for inverse property of multiplication, it states that any number or variable multiplied by its reciprocal, this time reciprocal, it is equal to 1. For example, 4. When you multiply to its reciprocal here, the result is 1. So this 1/4 here is your multiplicative inverse. That makes the operation or the result equal to 1. So when you multiply a number and its reciprocal, the result is 1. That is inverse property of multiplication. How about negative? 1/8. So of course, the reciprocal of negative 1/8 is negative 8. Then, negative 8 here is your multiplicative inverse. That makes the operation equal to 1. Then, another example, 4, this time positive. So it's just the same with from question number 1. So, multiplicative. How about number 4? Or we say this is question or sample number 3. Negative 2x. So negative 2x, so the reciprocal of that is 1 over negative 2x. So when you add, so this, I'm sorry, this is not plus here. This is times. So negative 2x times, correction, times, this is not plus, this is times. Times quantity of 1 over negative 2x is equal to 1. So it would not, or this 1 over negative 2x makes the result equal to 1 when you multiply this 1 to this 2x, negative 2x. So again, this is not plus, that is times. For properties or identity property, number 5. So the identity property of addition states that the sum of 0 and any number or variable is the number or variable itself. So it's clear, no, that adding a number by 0 is always a number. For example, 20 plus 0. So of course, when you add nothing, so the result would be the existing. So your 0 here is known as the additive identity. Additive identity, your 0. That when you add 0 to a number is always the number itself. Another example, 6m plus 0. Of course, the result is 6m. So 0 here is your additive identity. How about for the identity property of multiplication? So it states that the product of 1 and any number or variable is the number or variable itself. So, for example, 100 times 1. So, of course, the result is the number itself. And this one here is your multiplicative identity. That when you multiply 1 to any number or variable or expression, it always the number, expression, or constant probably. So again, the product of 1 and any number or variable is the number or variable itself. So if it involves equation, exponent, x squared times 1, of course, since this is 1, so itself x squared. That is identity property of multiplication. Again, this one is your multiplicative identity. So if the board exam would ask, what is the multiplicative identity of 100? So the result is 1, or the answer is 1. And for sample 3, 4, quantity of 4 times 1/4. So this is not included also with that one. Now this is my links that I'm using or references. So that would be my end or the end of my presentation. This is Engineer Larry Angelo Arcanietti. Thank you for listening. Salamat.